amount of defense, specifically if they do have a dive on the side of Xavier. And I think you look at
angle.
You have, again, they like to play the version without the Bastion for stuff like this, so that's very interesting because you have Shower against possible bars on the other side and Snipers, Jackie against anything that looks like Tax.
So I guess this is how they want to do it. This is very peculiar. This will be a pitched battle of sorts.
The only thing strong enough to penetrate it is itself. And we'll see now how Xavier get in position, and note that the defensive team usually has an advantage, except for the part where there's a Bastion on the side of Xavier.
You can just take their time here, just looking to rotate on the point. They did actually set up Patapan though, and that mine did throw a bit of a spanner in the works, kept Patapan isolated for a moment, but look at the ult charge on Tay here, by the way, and Immortality Field really paying off, and unfortunately Patapan still goes down. Bob gets finished off, but it's not really much of a trade. You really did want that Bastion to get into the mix here. Those turrets getting dusted off pretty quick. Smart Eternal low. Oh, does finally get finished off. Queen finds an angle there. So this is still very doable here for Xavier. This Riptide is really going to thread the needle. Does find THK, so it's going to be very hard for anyone to reinforce easily.
It's got a lot of stragglers here from the Xavier side, and it's kind of thinking, okay, you really got to stay in. They are kind of getting picks, make it quite chaotic. If they can really start to lean in on this respawn advantage, which is close to them, they can do a lot. And
beautiful.
Wow, Patapan's really got Shell's number this entire game.
Yeah, the crossfire you can get from the Widowmaker might just be a difference maker here. Cyclone Coupling already have to pay respect to it, and it makes positioning quite difficult here. If Xavier can leverage that, then they may be in business, but they're still actually struggling to get these kills, and inevitably it is looking like Cyclone Coupling will start to force them back. Even with this light wall coming in, Xavier have yet to really come back to a full 6 versus 6 here, and by this point Cyclone Coupling have largely respawned.
And that's that kind of sunk cost fallacy, right? For Xavier.
Oh, hold
do they want to stay in? Do they not want to stay in? We say hold on, but we're holding on to both sides realistically.
Yeah, and suddenly though, THK picking up 4 now. That is absolutely incredible. And one of them being Jackie while he was channeling a Riptire. Funnily enough, that at his strongest point, he was his most vulnerable there, and Cyclone Coupling suddenly find the rug pulled out from underneath him. That's the explosiveness of both of these team comps.
And it's also the perseverance of Xavier Esports to say, no, we still got this. No, we got Patapan on the flank with the Widow. And a flank because he's coming from spawn, and while a lot of the fight's taking place on the actual point itself, Cyclone Coupling are just distracted, and that's when he can start getting some crucial headshots. Now, Cyclone Coupling, they still held out for a lot of time, but for Xavier, this is the strat they practice. This is why they picked Hanamura. Now it's time to see if they're going to deliver.
I mean, what do you call it? Like on the offense, it's almost like a bunker and a siege comp. I don't know how else to describe this, because they're both just kind of dug in, right? Patapan finds Jackie's turret. That's just something. Finds, I mean, it's just Immortality Field. Everyone's just going to kill, you know, I'm trying to think of the generic word for a device. There you go, a device. And that's already a third on the point now for Xavier, who are honestly far more set up here than Cyclone Coupling, and now with that light wall as well. This is absolutely disgusting from Patapan.
It's walls everywhere, and it's tank mode to follow now. All 6 members down. That's a cap out. And I'll tell you what, this is the kind of leapfrog strategy that can really work quite well for a Bastion Batiste team, and this is also the kind of thing where, I mean, it just makes the Bastion leapfrog even better with the introduction of the Batiste, and if you can run it on defense, Xavier is showing that you can run it on offense as well, and suddenly it's Cyclone Coupling thinking, hold on a second, we didn't think of this.
I mean, we just questioned, what can Xavier do against that Baptiste bunker? Well, the answer is to play it themselves, just on the offense.
I will
now,
say,
actually, you got to look at Cyclone Coupling and go, do they have the gonads to match this?
I think Cyclone Coupling should have had the Bastion, because if they had that, the offensive Bastion bunker, not as powerful, because you just set that up. The defensive one is already set up. They're shooting at you while you're trying to get in position, not the same thing. So because they opted for an Ashe Junkrat version with that Roadhog, you come in with a Bastion, you don't have to go up against all that huge setup DPS. You got to dodge some of the poke damage coming through, and then you're free.
Xavier, on the other hand, on the defense, they want that Bastion. They also decide they want themselves a Mei, and I kind of like this here as well. This honestly feels like Xavier have done their homework. It feels like they've got a much better handle on what Cyclone Coupling want to run on Assault.
And by the way, Xavier kind of have to double down here in the fact that if they are going to continue running this, if they lose A, they have to also basically run this on B as well. Get a Symmetra, teleport yourself up, just like we saw in our last quarterfinal, because if they have to swap the 3-3, they're going to be in a bad spot. Cyclone Coupling, they're very familiar with this kind of comp. They should have the correct answers to deal with it early.
You'd certainly like to think so. They will be able to scout it out a little bit as well with Eternal, see if they actually decide to make any changes. Looks like they will.
They're actually going to opt for a Ryan. Okay, so they're going to go for double shield here. I assume Jackie goes onto Bash. Usually when you go for the offensive play here, you have a Ryan and a Orisa to have the double shielding, and then your Bastion can out-damage the defensive Bastion.
And that's sort of the game plan here. THK could still throw some spanners in that one, though.
I think the wall's going to do a lot of damage.
Yep, there it is. Fallen gets isolated, is the first casualty as well, and now the shield is just trying to cover some retreat. They tried to get some extra damage out of Jackie, but not really able to do enough.
And it's the immortality field from GCGG that just makes sure no one else goes down, and there's a bit of a window here, and that window is basically already closed because it's a 10-second May wall, I'm pretty sure. Which means every single time Cyclone Company want to set up, THK is going to isolate someone with that wall and going to secure a kill.
And they can try and get clever, just pitch themselves on the other side of the wall. They do it again here. Didn't quite work last time. This time, similarly, not quite finding the success here.
So this is good for Cyclone Company because they got past the first wall. Now they're going to out-damage. Now they're finding Pixie.
And SQXD mech, Patapan low, but nearly up on the tank mode. So is Jackie. This could still go either way here, despite the lack of the Diva. SQX going to be back in the mech anyway. That's double boost here. Jackie's the one finding the damage. Patapan going down is the one that's really going to cost you. And you've also got to consider Cyclone Coupling have a res where Xavier do not. And there it is, committed onto Shao. So Cyclone Coupling, still plenty of staying power in this. The May will buy some time for Xavier, though.
And it's not going to buy much because the damage is so high now. Supercharger coming through. Xavier needs some counter picks and they need it fast.
And they're not exactly getting any, even in this long rotation, their most exposed point. That's a cute wall, but the shield is right there from Shao. They do drop the immortality field, but they can't actually get the kills. Now trying to push onto the point. They're not getting anything. Thittercorn goes down, and despite the nano boost here on THK and the Blizzard coming out, they're still struggling to get kills. They've only found Shao so far, but here is some more. They get Jackie, and that could be the beginning of it here. They need to deal with Red Fox, though, who still has a res at their disposal. Now, Patapan does find Red Fox. Brilliant angle there, just coming in the nick of time, and it looks like they might be able to hold on to this defense for now. Xavier.
And Cyclone Company was so close, they needed to get down Patapan again.
Not over yet. There's the wall coming out. They do find GCGG,
It'll be over
and
soon.
Now it's over.
And this is the problem now, is the full reset coming through, and now Patapan gets set back up to the team. Cyclone Company had one window to kind of get through there and collect the victory, but where THK still finds value is he slows down everything. The wall making sure the rotations get slowed down. The Blizzard making sure, again, rotations get slowed down and members are possibly down. And for Xavier, they just bought enough time for Patapan to return, and once that happens, Jackie was already basically implicated twice, and that's all you need.
It's a lot of time that had to be bought as well. It's not quite going to be the isolation that they need. After getting that first one on Fallen, they haven't had the same success, but that's going to be plenty of success. Well, there you have it. Less than a minute to go now.
And Mortality Field coming out slightly too late, as GCGG does have its ultimate available now. But like you mentioned, time is a factor, less than 1 minute. This is a huge commit from Cyclone Company, which, by the way, this is not going to be super impactful going on to B, I assume. We don't see it very often. And, yeah, that's one question, is how do you take A? The second question is how do you then go on to B?
I mean, Xavier could also just press the go button on their Bastion first. Really self-destruct toss forward. Doesn't get too much done. Queen down. Self-destruct toss back the other way now. Also not really getting anything.
Too high.
The immortality field's pretty strong here as well, and actually the wall kind of undoes what Patapan might be able to do in that tank mode. The Blizzard, however, that's potentially a lot more impactful. THK, though, gets picked out by Shao. There's going to be one back, though, onto Fallen. Jackie going down. That's the one they really need. And this is where Patapan can really come into his zone now with the amplification matrix down. They get the D-Mech, and I think this just might be a full hold to come out here. That 67.5% might as well be none. Xavier are going to be the ones to push us to match point.
And this is now making a huge statement from the Xavier camp as well, because Hanamura, we go on that map, we think both teams have a very strong capability on this kind of DPS comp, on the bunker comps as well, on a lot of the creativity, but ultimately you look at Xavier, much better prepared. You have a question of why are they picking this map? What have they got in their pocket? And well, it's a lot. They got a lot down there, deep pockets indeed. And it's suddenly Cyclone Coupling thinking, what is going wrong? We should be the team that is better in this matchup. But I do believe that them opting into an offensive Bastion versus a defensive one is a mistake. They should be playing into the poke instead. It's much safer. It's much more consistent, in my opinion. And I think THK on the May really threw the spanner in the works that put Cyclone Coupling behind.
And I mean, it's kind of worked for Cyclone Coupling in the past as well. It feels a little bit baffling. It was almost like they saw how successful it was for Xavier and went, well, I guess we run it.
Different context, though.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. And also, look, I say that, but even then, I don't know how true that is because they obviously had this a little bit planned. You don't just willy-nilly go, yeah, we'll do that, but let's change it up. Let's put an extra shield in there. Like, this was premeditated. They had thought that this was an option for them against the Baptiste bunker on the defense, and honestly, Xavier out-executed there.
And the thing is, compositionally, I think Xavier won twice on attack and defense because they had the Bastion on the attack, which works great against the bunker version that doesn't have a Bastion, which is what Cyclone Coupling had on their defense. And then on offense, Xavier's own defense there, the defensive Bastion is better against the offensive Bastion. And both times, attacking and defending, Cyclone Coupling kind of just played into the hands of Xavier. So gave that one away. A lot of questions need to be asked, like, okay, well, how do we lose that one? I think clearly they made some poor choices, took some risks, and now we're going to go on to map number 4. Now, I do want to remind viewers, Rialto was super one-sided last week when these two teams matched up. If it goes that way again, we are going to go to map 5.
So we start to look at this as well. Maybe map 5 is actually not too bad for Xavier here because, look, they did win Oasis. Maybe they are just the stronger of these two teams on control. And it would be a map they get to pick if they lose Rialto. By picking up Hanamura, suddenly the tempo of this series completely shifts gear. Cyclone Coupling are really on the back foot here. This is kind of a miniature reverse sweep they would have to pull off.
It's going to be a tough ask. And I think
I feel weird saying that.
Well, the thing is, Xavier this is better than Xavier's ever done versus Cyclone Coupling. There's only one match to go off of for data here, but they've already surpassed what they've already previously achieved. By this time, it was already match point for Cyclone Coupling in that Week 7 matchup, but we are in a space where I do very much think that Rialto is going to go the way of Cyclone Coupling. It should go that way. It would have to be a huge turnaround for Xavier to be able to achieve this victory, and if they do, hands clapped, I mean, totally deserve it, but very likely we're going to go to our 2nd, 5th map.
And at that point as well, I mean, it's not just our 2nd, 5th map of the night. Within the context of the series, of course, it's 2nd control. And as mentioned it a moment ago, like maybe we consider, when you look at the history between these two teams, what limited data there is, every time they've gone to control, Xavier have won. That is an important metric here. So that's why I say, yeah, pressure's still on Cyclone Coupling. Even though you would say Rialto should be theirs. Look, it's not over the line yet, but you could confidently say that going into this at least. But after that, you've still got to actually do something that they haven't done against Xavier in the past, which is beat them on control.
Well, I think, convenient excuse here, but they were the stronger team on control despite losing, and that's a take I'm going to go with because
that is a hot take indeed.
Well, go back and watch it, and you'll see why I'm correct because they had the game sort of wrapped up. They kind of let it slip in the last few moments. Now that's a pretty big mistake.
Yeah.
But up until that point, you probably think, okay, this should go Cyclone Coupling's way, and if they can kind of just correct the last couple of moments, they wouldn't be in this position. But yet here we are, Rialto first, and see what happens after, if there is an after.
As we said, two teams here that have made semifinals in the past, but only one of them will be able to make one this season. And it's Xavier who are the closer of the two right now. So it is on Cyclone Coupling to answer. They do have a substitution in as well. Lee Chang-soon going to be back in.
We're going to see Xavier try and get over this playoffs curse where for the past few seasons in a row, every season except for the second one, they only got as far as quarters, and this is now one of their best shots to make it to semis again, and they need to be able to shut the door on the series ASAP.
Eternal not quite able to disrupt the Bastion getting on the payload, but Lee Chang-soon will fight his counterpart. Doesn't slow down the cart for the time being, and they're actually going to force Patapan off here.
Really clutch a mortality field. It's not actually going to save enough members because it goes down super quickly, and Cyclone Coupling going to find themselves a very quick fight win after that.
Yeah, Xavier are resetting. They realize that this isn't actually going to work.
And now I wonder if they change as well, because they do not have cart positioning, which means it's very difficult to run the Bastion. Panapan wants to go counter sniper. They're in fact going to go double sniper. This is going to put super high value against Jackie, who goes straight down.
Red Fox will be able to commit a res, so no harm, no foul, I suppose. But there's going to be a lot more pressure on Jackie for the rest of this until Jackie is potentially able to swap. So going to be a bit of a tight one here for the Pharah player.
Has to play super safe now, and a lot of pressure goes onto Lee Chang-soon as well. He needs to be the one to really take down Panapan or force him out of position such that Jackie can be free.
I mean, this feels good, right, for Xavier. This feels like they're leaning into what works well. Jackie does find Tay SQX as well. And as I say, leaning into what's good, Jackie just puts on the pressure, turns up the heat, and finds a couple. And Panapan not quite having that same... Well, as I say it. That's resable, though.
Red Fox did have to come from spawn. She did go down as well. Lee Chang-soon is able to respond.
Still trades though as Thetacorn goes down and GCGG commits a Transcendence. They're still just kind of waiting this one out.
And neither sniper, Widowmakers I'm talking about here, have really looked at each other. Panapan shot one headshot towards Lee Chang-soon. Infrasight available on both sides.
They know exactly where each other are. THK gets back in the mech, so Xavier have somewhat recovered here now as SQX finds the tank. Panapan gets another onto Jackie. And like I said, this feels like leaning into what's good, leaning into what works, and even getting the close range shot on Eternal. The sniper's really putting in the work here for Xavier.
And Cyclone Coupling now need to readdress this. Do we want to keep playing to Panapan or
Whoa!
not? And right now, I think Jackie just wanted to swap. He wants to use the barrage, find something, then immediately go on to, I assume, possibly, if they want to lean to go to the Brigida, but who knows at this point, he can go on Hanzo as well.
That was a really unfortunate death onto GCGG though, because this gives Xavier a lot of forward positioning, especially with Panapan, who could now just find a headshot as Cyclone Coupling square up for this next defense.
But I think with Jackie out of the skies, his now main contestant, his main opponent, is going to be Lee Chang-soon instead. It's going to be the EMP from Eternal. That should make a big difference also.
That's the thing, you've also got a lot of potential kill pressure on Eternal. One errant arrow, one well-placed shot, and Eternal finds himself completely left out to dry. Gonna go ahead and commit an EMP though. Decent connection onto the back three, but self-destruct just kind of laid up top there, and they find GCGG as well, so nothing really gained out of that EMP. Sleep on Fallen, takes some damage, but gonna survive for now. But it's Xavier on the front foot in this fight, and they will eventually convert onto Jackie. Counter trade onto Queen, not able to use the Primal Rage, but they trade it back with Fallen. So Xavier keeping the ball in their end of the court here as they dribble it on down to the goalpost.
So they got all six available right now. The res coming through onto Queen. SQX chasing down and taking down Lee Chang-soon, and we're now heading towards that B point. Gonna have it capped out, and Cyclone Coupling freshly basically onto this 3-3 for that last fight. Still looking for a compositional advantage, still looking for ultimates. Xavier will now match them.
So Xavier have really done their homework here. They went, well, look, Rialto, it did not go well for us last week. What needs to change? And, well, they've come in with a pretty convincing answer. This compositional swap, though, is, I mean, you've got to do it, but it does put them behind here. The Reaper is interesting, though.
And as a reminder as well, Rialto went 1-0. Xavier did not even cap A, and now they're on to C. This has been a huge improvement for Xavier across the past week, and if they can really get this map underway, then we're going to have a really competitive series. In fact, we might just have a win.
I mean, in a big way, this isn't just Xavier's best performance against Cyclone Coupling, it's their best performance full stop this season against a higher ranked team, but for this fight at least, Cyclone Coupling just have the ultimates to cycle through, so they are going to stop up Xavier for now, but I think Xavier were aware that that was likely to happen here.
And I wonder how long this Reaper does stay on the comp for. It replaces the Diva position, which Panapan actually does also play, so worst comes to worst, he'll pop himself on there. The other thing you see is Thetacorn still onto the Ana, and that's the other question mark because Eternal is on a Diva, so likely going to be less value from that Ana overall, but you kind of do want that combo with the Reaper player and Panapan. Sleep Dart's not going to really do much.
Yeah, still Threads the Needle gets fallen. Looks pretty. Remake on Eternal just in the nick of time there because Panapan was going to look for the flank otherwise, so now just looking to get the damage, drill down the tanks. Unfortunately, Queen goes down, and it's the thing, if it takes too long for the Reaper to actually find these kills, then eventually the people front-lining for the Reaper are going to go down. Death Blossom will be available for the next fight, but Xavier have kind of ground to a halt here.
Death Blossom's going to be super easy to shut down. There's now going to be double support ultimates, defense matrix available. Jackie's got a shield bash. Lee Chang-soon has got double bubbles. I think you just can't really play the Reaper. They have to get off it. The other problem is you can't be putting Third-Corn on the Ana to double down on the Reaper because that's just another sunk cost for them. So they've realized that and got to go on Sombra.
Yeah, I mean, they're just going to get more out of it, right? I very much prefer this on the whole, but they do end up losing time for that because that was 2 big pushes on the Reaper, and now they end up changing anyway. So we'll have to see how quickly Xavier can get themselves underway with this swap. That's a decent stack on Fallen, but yeah, the stun, unfortunately, grab out, but they're not really getting kills just yet, but it does feel like it's inevitable there as Fallen gets 2 in the charge, so, you know, double for your money.
I think Xavier as well, they wanted to push in. They said, okay, we got the hack onto Fallen. This should be go mode for us. They push in on the side, and Lee Chang-soon finds with the grab. They do get the grab out of the way, which is something, and the self-destruct, but Xavier need a lot of time, and they're actually losing the extra time they bought on both A and B. And now towards this final few pushes, I mean, by the time they get indoors for C, it might actually be overtime.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's going to come down to the wire no matter what. But the grab coming in here from THK. GCGG is yet to commit a Transcendence. I mean, he can't when he's hacked out, but there's the EMP, but it's after the Transcendence has come out anyway. So, I mean, GCGG gets the value that he wanted. Xavier is struggling to make headway here. They do have the later Transcendence, the 2, so now they can push forward, try to get some pressure. Nice hack stun onto Fallen, will find him out, but Queen goes down in an even counter trade. Red Fox is a good pick, though. Xavier trying to just keep on pressure. They find Lee Chang-soon, looking to isolate out maybe someone like GCGG, decent hack on Eternal, and it does seem that Xavier have broken back through.
And Patapan notably is going to get a lot of ultimate charge here. He's farming up really quickly, nearly onto another EMP. And for Xavier right now, such an important fight to win, finally underway at the 1 minute mark, and there are still going to be possibly 1 to 2 more fights where Cyclone Coupling can still respawn. They got to really weigh in on this respawn advantage pretty soon. This next EMP has to be just as good.
It's going to have to be a big connection. Oh, self-destruct tossed in. That's a bit of an awkward timing on the EMP because they have to avoid the self-destruct while they're piling on, but they still find something. Losing Queen is rough, but they trade out with Fallen. You'll get the grab in as well out of THK, so they need to get some damage. Counter grab is there, but it's not going to do anything. And Thittercorn, I mean, the Transcendence might not have even been necessary, but still has been used. Xavier keep the cart moving.
Xavier actually sidestepped the self-destruct, and they got GCGG down, which is double value because they got the Transcendence down while the grab was in play.
It is now available for this last fight for Cyclone Coupling, though. They're still waiting for the last few members. Shatter is good. Can they get the follow-up, though? Charge in. Will squish Patapan against the wall. Now Lee Chang-soon out the Doomfist as well, but Queen finds out GCGG. It's still Cyclone Coupling needing to get more kills on the board here. Lee Chang-soon goes down. Red Fox as well. Jackie super low. Eternal sure to be finished off here. And Xavier are going to get it over the line. It may be in overtime, but this is a huge improvement from last week.
Yeah, when you don't even cap a single point, you're fully held on A to finishing the entire map. And look, not without great difficulty. C was not the most comfortable. Started out in a risky composition, trying to go into a bit of Reaper, realized very quickly that, nope, you don't play Reaper. Very good reason why you don't play Reaper, but when they started to get the momentum rolling again on a more standard goats with the Sombra variation, Patapan, heaps of damage coming through from him, really quick charges on the EMP, outplayed the self-destruct from Eternal towards the last couple of pushes. GCGG goes down, Graviton Surge comes through, and both the EMP and the grab got to be used while the Transcendence was not available because the Zen player was down. And now for Cyclone Coupling, this is suddenly a very scary place to be in because this is not an easy map to cap through. We have not seen them play on B or C against this team of Xavier because they didn't have to last time. And now there's a real risk of what happens if they don't cap. This is a Xavier semi-final.
I mean, when it counted most, right, everything kind of came up Xavier there. Like, that's how you've got to take that on the offense. We do just have a pause coming out here, of course, but, I mean, there is a point where we've got to start recontextualizing how these two teams square up against one another, right? Like, we talk a lot about the history of these two teams, you know, their performances last week, their performances in previous seasons, the overall way they've tended to play the game, but at the end of the day, as much as we talked about the patch change being probably quite good for Cyclone Coupling because they've already been playing those things, I think there's now a point where we look at this and we go, it's actually been good for Xavier because it's allowed them to unlock some new things as well that they maybe couldn't or didn't have the confidence to play. This looks like a Xavier that is much more comfortable than the one that felt like it was almost restricted to 3-3 for the bulk of the season.
And it seemed like for 7 weeks in a row, even when Xavier were winning, it was kind of like, okay, well, they're sort of scraping by, and you know, you'll give some of them were a bit more dominant than the others, but still, it wasn't like crazy. It wasn't like watching Talon stomp on some teams that we've seen in the season. And now suddenly, they've really started matching up well against a team that, as a reminder, 3rd seed, 6-1 on standing, 6-1 in match record rather, and Xavier coming in as the number 6 seed with, what is it, a 2-5 record. The gap is so huge, and it seems like Xavier have kind of filled that gap. And, you know,
that's the thing, right?
I won't say they've surpassed, but
not yet.
It feels like they've at least met it.
And I think that's the real story here, right? Like, that's incredible in and of itself. It also kind of says, in a way, all bets are off when you look at these standings. Like we've said for the bulk of this, look, we've got 6 teams that we think are likely to make it into playoffs. All of them have some significant amount of history behind them in terms of making playoffs, but this felt like Xavier's weakest season for quite a while. The fact that this has now been such a momentum shift for them is significant in and of itself. And you look at the fact that, like, this is nowhere near going to be Xavier's first or last outing. Whether they win or lose here, however far they go in these playoffs, they'll come back again next season, and maybe that one won't be their worst season yet. Heck, maybe it'll be their best yet. This transformation here could honestly be the beginning of something, even if it doesn't actually get them into the rest of the playoffs.
And it's 4 seasons in a row for this team, and they're a Pacific veteran right now. They're one of the few teams that have been here for that long, and with the departure of Hong Kong Edge from last season, you look at teams like Xavier, you look at teams like Nova, they are here to stay.
They're kind of the old guard now. The wheel has turned, and teams that we once considered new are suddenly our most veteran.
And let's look at the wheel turning once again compositionally in this exact matchup right now. Cyclone Coupling do identify the bunker composition with the Bastion, and they want to go for poke. They want to go for the logical answer.
Yeah, they're not going to try their own Bastion this time around. I mean,
they listen.
With the payload as well, you don't really want to do that anyway. So that's a bit of early pressure. Thittercorn getting picked is nice because now any picks they get beyond that point will stick.
It's absolutely insane. No res is a big deal in this kind of competition.
Tay's low as well.
And now you have Xavier kind of out of position. Tay, like you mentioned, is probably going down next.
The Baptiste is so little self-heal as well. Amazingly staying alive for this long. And they found Jackie as well, which alleviates some pressure. But the res is there on Jackie. THK goes down. Tay finally gets finished off. And Patapan is kind of left out to dry. Relatively defenseless there. So Xavier going to get picked apart pretty promptly on point A.
It's a pressure that can be more accurately described as an itch. You just scratch on it for a little bit, but it does come back. And for Cyclone Coupling, they're constantly coming at you, and now Xavier, full compositional swap. They've more or less kind of given up defensive pressure onto A. They're going to go back in just to see if they can maybe shut down Jackie, and if they can do that, maybe still hold on. GCGG, got to be a first target.
As soon as Patapan comes back in on the Widowmaker, the change is felt. You know, that I would say it's a change in the wind, but really it's a lightning bolt striking you from the sky. Now he finds Eternal as well. I mean, this guy should rename himself Zeus. Finds 3. Patapan really showing off.
He's like, if you want to play DPS, let me show you what a DPS looks like. It looks like number 4 going in the pocket right now.
Oh, man. I mean, again, this is what was working on this part of the offense for Xavier. They just lean back into it on the defense as well.
And who cares when you don't have positioning? Who cares when you make a comp swap, you got no ultimates? Patapan hits 4 shots in a row, puts himself at 75% rather, still counting up. And suddenly Cyclone Coupling find themselves reset. Jackie doesn't want to swap yet because he's got a barrage, but it's probably going to die straight away.
They know where Fallen is, and they would have seen the end of the Mercy Beam as well, so they know that Red Fox is coming in from that side. EMP is in. They find 3 members. Tay probably going to get finished off. Nice find there, and Rocket Barrage is big. Jackie does go down for it, but Patapan is going to have to do a lot more work than last time, and this time will not be able to. Will get finished off by the Primal Rage. So off the back of that, Cyclone Coupling will cap, but Xavier getting a second win on that defense does help run down the clock.
Staying confident on the offense, so I do like that from Cyclone Coupling, and just kind of taking it to the man here. You can see Xavier
THK
doing their best. Losing a member doesn't help them.
They don't get anyone else, but that 1 stagger is still a decent one for Cyclone Coupling, similar to what Xavier were able to do, and it looks like they're actually going for a swap here as well.
Dive, straight dive. This has been the dream of mine for so long. Chase that storm, people. It's about the storm rising right now. Force the dive to come in. My favorite composition.
Are you ready for the greatest hits of Patapan? Because now he's looking to come back out on the McCree, and, well, you want to dive?
I got like 3 seconds, and no one even did anything.
Yeah, no one even dove.
That's right. I can play my PvE event where everyone has to play
The thing is, this change from Cyclone coupling feels kind of rough when you consider that they're going against a Brigitte and a McCree, right? You got those two squishy flankers. Eternal's already dead as well. This is not what Cyclone coupling thought they were going to be walking into.
And this is, by the way, it's like still kind of half die because, you know, Sombra, Tracer, whatever, two flankers.
Hey, whatever comes to sleep at night.
Whatever, if you play this comp or you play the one with the Genji, both of them are not good versus the McCree because both of them are at risk of being stunned. It's a super McCree as well with SQX and the Brigitte, so it's double stun, and that's really deadly for anyone that gets caught.
And I mean, hey, they decide they're going to change off one of those more squishy, more susceptible members. It's only Lee Jung-soon, and they want the EMP in there. So now, essentially, we're back to goats for Cyclone coupling. So Xavier...
Sombra goats versus Super McCree.
Yeah, it's, well, it's a different time, I suppose. So, Tay finds one on Jackie, and now the Deadeye going to be channeled out. It's going to be a dive forward from Fallen, but that just leaves him vulnerable. So this is numbers advantage now as Patapan presses on the gas. And again, you can just build around Patapan compositionally. Xavier looking so much more comfortable.
And you're feeling the tide shift right now. You're feeling like, okay, Cyclone coupling came in favored. You feel like maybe even Oasis should have gone their way, but Xavier, they don't care about that. They're on match point. In fact, they're in the position where they can actually finish this game 3-1. They lost 1-3 last time, but now it's the opposite day.
Cyclone coupling, no matter how much they wanted the EMP, decide, no, we can't keep giving Patapan headshotable members here. They have to have healers, but they don't want to have anyone else more vulnerable to that Peacemaker.
And this should be the best composition. Cyclone coupling should be able to get some distance here. Fallen getting healed up as well.
Deadeye channeled out for a second time, just make some space this time, but Cyclone coupling, having committed the Primal Rage and tried to move forward, find themselves only getting halting progress, and as they start moving forward, Patapan moves back and just dishes out the damage as they go. Dedicorn does get picked off though, as that sound barrier came out from Tay. Now GCGG trying to get aggressive with a Transcendent. Patapan needs to stun, and that is what Cyclone coupling have been needing dearly this entire time. So with that, they will be able to pick up a nice fight win here. Might not quite be able to get the cap though, because there's still a bit of distance.
Yeah, this has already been a decent amount of time bled off that clock in Xavier. They want to go on to their own 3-3 now, dropping that McCree entirely. And this is where Cyclone coupling have to really make up for that lost positioning, and sorry, lost time rather.
They can go for it. They got one last shot at this. I mean, if worst, it just takes more time off the clock. Eden grab out of Lee Jung-soon. That's going to be a tough pill to swallow, or maybe a tasty pill if you are THK. So now self-destruct laid up, does not find anything in Cyclone coupling, just with only the sound barrier rather. Aside from that, all out of gas. But Xavier losing Queen, and they don't exactly have a lot to go on in their own right. So that's going to be Cyclone coupling getting the last few picks through that they need, but honestly, less than 30 seconds on the clock as this cap's looking to come through.
Which is why this is basically a must cap in this position. If Cyclone coupling had lost this, likely they maybe don't even finish the map.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't do much after that, but Xavier still keeping themselves into this one. Cyclone coupling doing the exact same thing. And you reach that 130 mark, this has to be a huge snowball. If it happens in overtime.
That's the thing, even getting that cap out, they've still only got a minute and a half. It's not a lot of time. We talked about how this was maybe a gimme for Cyclone coupling. I think even as far as Xavier capping, we still half expected to go to map 5, but it might just not even happen that way.
Yeah, and I think the story changes as soon as you see Xavier finish the entire map, and Cyclone coupling know it. They know they're on their last legs. They know their tournament life is at risk.
And they've got to win every single fight from here on out. Self-destruct, it's not enough to get any kills, but they do still find Jackie Queenless to push forward. A minute left on the clock now for Cyclone coupling. If they cap, it will be in overtime.
And that's, you know, the fact that it's going to go in overtime sooner than that, they're going to be in a position where once the cart goes indoors, likely that's going to take the rest of this full minute because ultimates become a factor. Xavier kind of freshly, you know, onto this comp in a way that Cyclone coupling are. Well, actually, not quite as much, but they actually have a lot of ultimates to play with despite how soon it's been.
Here's the difference, though. Cyclone coupling will have a grab self-destruct. Not anymore, they don't. THK 2 for 2 now on those. Lee Jung-soon really not enjoying himself right now. Self-destruct toss forward. They need to find something. They do find Tay, but he did get the sound barrier out prior to that. Now the grab out from Patapan is big. Less than 20 seconds now. 15 on the clock. Fallen going to live up to his namesake here if he's not careful. Lee Jung-soon will go down. There's Fallen. There's Eternal out of the mech. Less than 10 seconds. Xavier, the bottom seed coming into these playoffs, are looking to punch their ticket to a second semi-final in their Contenders careers. tears in what has got to be the most unexpected result of the night.
And I said this before and I'll say it again. If Xavier can win Rialto, they are very much deserving of taking that quarterfinal win and booking themselves a trip to that semis. And right now, they do so in the most spectacular way possible. It is not only the best they've done against Cyclone Coupling, but I agree, the best they've looked at this entire tournament. This is a fully reinvigorated Xavier. This is the Xavier that has been that major threat for all the past seasons they played in.
It's a team that couldn't even beat the likes of Jupiter, who themselves were having a rough season. They couldn't quite beat Global Esports. The fact that they come into the playoffs and they beat one of the teams that was tied for first in match record.
That had also beaten them.
Exactly. It is absolutely phenomenal. The absolute gear shift that has happened in this last week. And again, I mean, we cannot emphasize enough the fact that just 1 week ago, they lost against this same team. We've seen that happen before in this region, where a team loses to a team, then comes back the week later and beats them in playoffs. But this was the last team I expected to do it this year.
Yeah, especially, it's not just the fact that, okay, it's, third seed versus number 6, but Xavier have had such a,
a tough season.
Unbelievably unfortunate run through.
There was a point where it looked like they might end up relegated.
Well, that's the thing, because if it wasn't for the fact that there were two teams that, sad to say, but were a little bit under par for what the expected skill level was, if there was at least one other team similar to Xavier's level, I think Xavier would have been relegated, because they waited a long time, and not on purpose obviously, but just observationally, to get back to this kind of level that we remember them being at for so long. And for them to finally do that now is incredible. And also, you look at that previous match, and we saw this as an opportunity. We said if they